The rain hammered down like nails on metal, each drop a reminder of how close he was to losing everything. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, his vision blurring from exhaustion and something else he refused to name. 16-hour shifts at the warehouse, court dates he couldn't afford to miss, a daughter waiting at home with a babysitter he was paying with money that should have gone to groceries. One more mistake, that's all it would take. One more reason for them to say he wasn't fit, wasn't capable, wasn't enough. And then, through the sheets of rain and the smear of headlights, he saw him. A small figure on the side of the road, soaked to the bone, arms wrapped around himself. A child, alone, in the dark. And Marcus, despite the voice in his head screaming that he couldn't afford any complications, pulled over. The kid couldn't have been more than 7 years old. His Spider-Man t-shirt clung to his skinny frame, his sneakers squelched with water, and his face, streaked with rain and tears, looked up at Marcus with an expression that split him open. Fear and hope tangled together. Marcus knew that look. He'd worn it himself years ago, before life had taught him that hope was dangerous. "Hey, buddy," Marcus said, keeping his voice soft as he crouched down in the rain, letting himself get soaked. The kid needed to see he wasn't a threat. "You okay? Where are your parents?" The boy's lip trembled. I don't know where I am. We were at the store and I saw a toy and I followed it outside and then I couldn't find my mom." His voice cracked on the last word, and fresh tears spilled down his cheeks, mixing with the rain. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. His own daughter, Emma, was 8, just a year older than this kid. If she were lost, scared, alone, the thought made his hands shake. "It's okay. We're gonna find her, all right? What's your name?" "Tyler." "Tyler, I'm Marcus. Let's get you out of this rain first. Then we'll figure this out." He gestured to his beat-up Honda, and the kid hesitated for only a second before nodding. Marcus opened the passenger door, grabbed the emergency blanket he kept in the back, a thin silver thing that was meant for his daughter but would work for now, and wrapped it around Tyler's shoulders. The kid was shivering so hard his teeth chattered. Marcus cranked up the heat, even though it would drain his gas, even though every dollar mattered now. Some things you just did. "Okay, Tyler. Do you remember your mom's phone number?" Tyler's face crumpled. "No, I'm supposed to, but I can't remember." That's okay. Marcus kept his voice steady, even as his mind raced. He should call the police. That was the right thing to do. But the last time he'd dealt with cops, they'd looked at him like he was already guilty, like a black man with a record, even a clean one now, was still just a suspect. And if they ran his plates, saw the court case, the custody battle, no, he couldn't risk it. Not tonight. "Do you know your address?" Tyler nodded, his small face brightening just a little. "Uh-huh. 2247 Maple Street." Marcus pulled out his phone, typed it into GPS. 15 minutes away. He could do this. Get the kid home, avoid any entanglement, get back to his own life. Simple. "All right, buddy. Let's get you home." As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, Tyler talked. It was the way kids did when they were nervous, when silence felt too heavy. He talked about his favorite superhero, Spider-Man, obviously, and how he wanted to be just like him. He talked about his mom, how she worked really hard, how she was always tired, but always made time to read him stories at night. And he talked about his dad, who wasn't around anymore, and how sometimes he missed him, but mostly he didn't, because his mom said they were better off. Marcus listened, his jaw tight. He knew what it was like to be that kid. He knew what it was like to have a parent who tried so damn hard and still felt like it was never enough. His own father had left when he was Tyler's age. His mother had worked 3 jobs, and Marcus had sworn that he'd be different. That when he had a kid, he'd be there, every day, every moment. And he had been. For 8 years, he'd been there for Emma. Until Sarah decided he wasn't fit. Until she'd found a lawyer who knew how to twist words, how to make a man who'd made mistakes a decade ago look like a danger to his own daughter. The GPS announced they'd arrived. Marcus pulled up to a modest 2-story house, lights blazing in every window. The front door was open and a woman stood on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, her face a mask of panic. She wore scrubs, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and the moment she saw the car, she was running. Tyler threw off the blanket and fumbled with the seatbelt. "Mom!" The woman yanked open the door and pulled her son into her arms, sobbing into his hair, her hands running over him like she needed to confirm he was real. He was whole. He was here. "Oh my God, Tyler. Oh my God, baby. I thought... Marcus stayed in the car, watching through the rain-streaked window. This wasn't his moment. This was theirs. He started to shift into reverse, to leave quietly, but the woman looked up and froze. Her face went white, actually white, like every drop of blood had drained away. Her hands, still clutching Tyler, started to shake, and when she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper, but Marcus heard it clear as a gunshot. "Marcus?" Time stopped. The rain, the hum of the engine, the whole damn world just stopped. Marcus stared at her, at this woman who'd saved her son, this woman in scrubs with tired eyes and a face he knew, a face he'd spent 3 years trying to forget. Victoria. She'd been a paralegal at the law firm, the one who dug up his juvenile record, the sealed file that wasn't supposed to exist anymore, the shoplifting charge from when he was 15 and desperate and stupid. She'd found it, brought it to her boss, and they'd used it like a weapon. They'd painted him as dangerous, unstable, a threat, and the judge, looking at that file and Sarah's tears, had believed them. Supervised visitation only. Weekends, if he was lucky. His daughter, the center of his entire world, ripped away because of a mistake he'd made half a lifetime ago. And here she was, Victoria Chen, the woman who destroyed his family. Tyler looked between them, confused. "Mom, do you know him?" Victoria's mouth opened, closed. Her eyes were wide, swimming with something Marcus couldn't name. Yes, we've met before." Marcus should have left, should have driven away and never looked back. But something kept him frozen there, his hands gripping the wheel. "Your son was lost on Route 9. Thought I'd bring him home. Thank you." Her voice cracked. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if..." She couldn't finish, just held Tyler tighter. Marcus nodded once, put the car in reverse, started to back out. "Wait!" Victoria took a step forward, Tyler still in her arms. "Please, just wait 1 second." Against every instinct, every ounce of self-preservation, Marcus stopped, put the car in park, waited. Victoria set Tyler down gently, whispered something to him, and the boy ran inside. Then she walked to Marcus's window, her arms wrapped around herself, and the look on her face. It wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't cold or calculating. It was broken. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice barely audible over the rain. I need you to know." "Know what?" Marcus's voice was flat, hard. He didn't have space for whatever this was. "That file." She closed her eyes and tears slipped down her cheeks. "That sealed juvenile record. I found it. I brought it to my boss. And every single day since then, I've regretted it." Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. "You regret it. That's great. That really helps me, Victoria. That really helps my daughter, who cries every Sunday night when I have to leave. That really fixes the fact that I work 80 hours a week to pay for lawyers to fight for the right to be her father." "I know." Victoria's voice broke. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need you to understand. I didn't know. I didn't know what they were going to do with it. I thought I was just doing my job, finding information, being thorough. I didn't know they'd use it to destroy you. And when I found out, when I saw what happened, I quit. I walked out that same day." "Good for you." Marcus started the engine again. "You get to walk away with a clean conscience. I get to live with the consequences. I know what I did was wrong." Victoria was crying openly now, her whole body shaking. "I know I can't take it back, but I want to help. I want to make it right." "There is no making it right," Marcus said, and his voice was ice. "You took my daughter from me. You took the only thing that mattered. There's no coming back from that." He drove away, leaving her standing in the rain, and he didn't look back. couldn't look back, because if he did, he might see something in her face that complicated the clean, simple anger he needed to survive. That night, after Emma was asleep after their too-short phone call, Marcus sat in his empty apartment and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Tyler, safe at home with his mother. He thought about Victoria's face, the guilt written there like a scar. And he thought about the fact that the universe had the cruelest sense of humor. Of all the lost kids in all the world, he'd found hers. 3 days later, there was a knock on his door. Marcus opened it to find Victoria standing there holding a folder. Her eyes were red-rimmed like she hadn't slept. "I know you don't want to see me," she said quickly before he could close the door. "But I have something that might help your case." Marcus's hand tightened on the doorframe. "What are you talking about?" "After I quit the firm, I couldn't stop thinking about your case, about what I'd done. So I started digging, really digging." She held out the folder, and her hand was shaking. "Your ex-wife's new boyfriend. He's got a record. DUI, assault, possession, all within the last 5 years, all conveniently left out of her custody filings." Marcus stared at the folder like it might bite him. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I owe you." Victoria's voice was steady now, certain. "Because I helped take your daughter away and I need to help get her back. And because Tyler hasn't stopped talking about you, about the nice man who saved him. And I realized that if my son was lost, scared, alone, and someone like you found him, that would be the greatest mercy in the world. You didn't have to help him. You could have called the cops, kept driving, but you stopped. You got soaked in the rain to make sure my kid felt safe. That's who you are. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure the court sees that." Marcus took the folder. His hands were shaking. "This doesn't fix what you did." "I know," Victoria said softly, "but maybe it's a start." Over the next 6 weeks, Victoria became something unexpected, an ally. She connected Marcus with a lawyer who worked pro bono, a woman who'd made her career out of fighting wrongful custody cases. She provided testimony, explaining how the sealed record had been obtained, casting doubt on the ethics of the original case. She sat through depositions, her voice never wavering, even when Sarah's lawyer tried to tear her apart. And slowly, impossibly, things started to shift. The judge agreed to review the case. New hearings were scheduled. Emma's therapist testified that the separation was causing harm, that Marcus was a stable, loving presence in her life. Sarah's boyfriend's record came to light, and suddenly her claims of providing a safer environment looked shaky. Through it all, Marcus saw Victoria. Not at court. She was careful about that, but she'd text updates, leave notes with the lawyer, make sure he knew what was happening. And once, when he ran into her at the grocery store, Tyler in tow, the kid's face had lit up. "Mr. Marcus! Mom! It's Mr. Marcus!" Tyler ran over, and Marcus found himself crouching down, the same way he had that rainy night. "Hey, Tyler! How you doing, buddy?" "Good. I haven't gotten lost again. Mom got me this." He held up his wrist, showing off a bracelet with a phone number engraved on it. "So if I get lost, people can call her." "That's smart," Marcus said, and he meant it. He looked up at Victoria, who was watching them with an expression he was starting to recognize. Guilt, yes, but something else too. Something like hope. "He talks about you all the time," she said quietly. "You're his hero." "I just gave him a ride home." "You gave him more than that." Victoria's eyes were bright. "You gave him safety when he was terrified. You gave him kindness when you had every reason to be bitter. You gave him—" Her voice broke. "You gave him what I took from your daughter. Presence, protection, love." Marcus stood slowly. Tyler was chattering about Spider-Man again, oblivious to the weight of the moment. "I don't know how to forgive you," Marcus said, and it wasn't cruel. It was just honest. "I don't expect you to," Victoria replied. "I just want to help make things right, for you, for Emma, and for Tyler, because I want him to grow up in a world where good people are rewarded, not punished." The hearing was set for a Thursday morning. Marcus put on his only suit, the one he'd worn to his mother's funeral, and walked into that courtroom with his lawyer beside him and a hope so fragile he was afraid to breathe. Victoria wasn't there, but her testimony was, her words on paper carrying more weight than he dared imagine. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed everything. The new evidence, the therapist's report, the questions about how the sealed record had been obtained. And then she looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and said the words that changed everything. Joint custody, 50-50 split, effective immediately. Marcus didn't remember leaving the courtroom, didn't remember thanking his lawyer or calling his boss to take the day off. He just remembered driving to Sarah's house, his hands shaking so hard he could barely hold the wheel, and knocking on that door. And when Emma opened it, when she saw him and screamed, "Daddy!" and launched herself into his arms, he held her so tight he thought they might both break. "You're staying?" Emma whispered into his shoulder, her voice muffled and desperate. "I'm staying," Marcus said, and he was crying. He didn't care who saw. "I'm staying, baby girl. I'm not going anywhere." That night, after Emma was asleep in her room, in the apartment that was now officially half hers, Marcus sat on the couch and pulled out his phone. He stared at Victoria's number for a long time, and then he typed, "Thank you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "You deserved better than what I did to you. I hope this is a step toward healing. For both of us." Marcus stared at those words. Then he typed, "Tyler's lucky to have you." The response came quickly. "Emma's lucky to have you too." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something. An acknowledgement. A bridge, fragile and new, built over a chasm that had seemed impossible to cross. 3 months later, Marcus was at the park with Emma, watching her on the swings, when he heard a familiar voice. "Higher, Mom! Push me higher!" He turned to see Tyler on the swing next to Emma's, Victoria behind him, laughing. Their eyes met across the playground, and for a moment, the weight of history hung between them. Then Tyler saw Marcus and waved, nearly falling off the swing in his excitement. "Mr. Marcus! Emma, that's Mr. Marcus, the guy I told you about!" Emma, protective as ever, looked at Victoria with suspicion. But Tyler was already running over, chattering about a new Spider-Man movie, and Emma, never one to resist another kid's enthusiasm, followed. Victoria walked over slowly, her hands in her pockets. "Small world," she said. "Smallest," Marcus replied. He watched the kids, already deep in conversation about superheroes. "He doing okay?" "Yeah, better than okay. He wants to be a hero when he grows up. Says you showed him what that looks like." Marcus shook his head. "I just gave him a ride." "You did more than that." Victoria's voice was soft. "You showed mercy when you had every reason not to. You helped a stranger's child when you had your own problems. That's heroism, Marcus. The real kind." They stood in silence for a moment, watching their kids. Then Marcus said, "I'm working on forgiving you. It's not easy, but I'm trying." "That's more than I deserve," Victoria said, and she meant it. "Maybe." Marcus looked at her then, really looked at her. Saw not the paralegal who'd destroyed his case, but the mother who'd been desperate with fear for her lost child. The woman who'd quit her job out of guilt. The person who'd spent weeks helping him get his daughter back, expecting nothing in return. Or maybe it's exactly what we both deserve. A second chance. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I'd like that." Tyler ran back over, breathless. "Mom, can Emma come over for dinner? Please, we want to watch Spider-Man." Victoria looked at Marcus, a question in her eyes, and Marcus thought about the night he'd found Tyler, about the rain and the fear and the impossible coincidence that had brought them here, about forgiveness and mercy and the strange paths that led to healing. "Yeah," he said, and he smiled. "Yeah, that sounds good." As they walked toward the parking lot, kids running ahead, Victoria said quietly, "I never thought I'd get a chance to make this right." "Life's weird like that," Marcus said. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best ones. Sometimes the people who hurt us end up being the ones who save us." "Is that what I did?" Victoria asked. "Saved you?" Marcus watched Emma and Tyler, already best friends, already inseparable. Maybe we saved each other. And in the golden light of a Thursday afternoon, two broken people and two kids who'd found each other in the chaos, Marcus thought that maybe, just maybe, forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing to build something new from the rubble of what was lost. It was about mercy, second chances, and the quiet courage it took to let someone back in. The rain had stopped weeks ago, but the growth that came from it, the impossible blooming of hope from pain that was still unfolding, and for the first time in years, Marcus looked at the future and didn't see loss. He saw possibility. He saw his daughter, safe and happy. He saw Victoria, learning what it meant to atone. And he saw himself, learning what it meant to heal. Some stories don't have neat endings. Some forgiveness takes years, not months. But sometimes, on a random Thursday in a park, you get to see the beginning of something that might, one day, look like redemption. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.